You're listening to the Quint podcast.
After the marvelous Thomas Cup win, India has yet another reason to celebrate as the Telangana-born boxer Nikhat Zareen bagged the gold medal in the 52 kg category at the Women's World Boxing Championship after defeating Thailand's Jitpong Jutamas in the flyweight final in Istanbul. With this, the 25-year-old became only the fifth Indian woman to bag a gold at the World Boxing Championships after record six-time champion MC Mary Kom, Sarita Devi, Jenny Arl and Lekha KC. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi, legendary boxer Vijender Singh, women's hockey team captain Rani Rampal, cricketer Robin Uthappa and many others congratulated her for this incredible feat. In a press conference after the win, Zareen asked, "Am I trending on Twitter? It was always my dream to win on Twitter." Listen in.
First, tell me, am I trending on Twitter?
Oh yeah, you are.
That was one of my dreams to trend on Twitter, and if I'm trending, I'm really happy. And yes, I'm really happy to win gold for my country, and hopefully, I continue winning medals for my country in future also.
And in today's episode, we'll trace Nikhat's journey in the world of boxing in her own voice as she tells the story of her trials and tribulations and how she fought them back. We'll also talk to sports writer Anand Datla about what this achievement means for Nikhat and Indian boxing. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. I'm Shorbori. Before I begin, I'd like to tell our listeners that this will be the last episode of this season of The Big Story, and counting today's episode, I'm happy to tell you that we've had 950 episodes in season 1 where we try to bring before you a variety of stories from the world of sports, politics, business along with human interest stories, and I hope you liked listening to our news coverage. And at this point, I also want to thank our listeners who have often dropped us emails sharing their words of appreciation for our work, but fret not. We'll be back with a season 2 of The Big Story after a short break, and this time it'll be in a new style and a new format. We're working on it currently, but do keep an eye on the Quint social media pages where we'll soon be making an announcement for the release of season 2. But coming back to our podcast today, Nikhat Zareen became a name in India's boxing scene after winning the gold medal at the Junior World Boxing Championships back in 2011. Incidentally, that gold was also won in Turkey. But the journey so far has been all about challenges, and more challenges. Growing up in the small town of Nizamabad, there were a lot of naysayers that she had to dodge in the way of picking a career that is largely male-dominated. But she said that her father, Jamal Ahmed, who's a former state-level football player, ensured that she had all the support that she needed. And the Quint sports editor Mendra Dorjey had also interviewed the young boxer earlier in May for a documentary titled Nikhat Zareen, the Girl Who Fought Back, which is available on the Quint's YouTube page and website. You can also find the documentary in this episode's show notes. But let's listen to a small snippet of what she said about all that she had to overcome to learn boxing.
Me, being a Muslim girl, they did not like it taking up boxing just because, boxing में हमें shorts पहनना पड़ता है, sleeveless वाला top पहनना पड़ता है. And at the same time, boxing, known as male-dominated game. तो सबको ये था कि अगर मैं बॉक्सिंग में जाती हूँ तो अपने मैं फेस खराब कर लूँगी एंड मैं अपने हाथ पैर टुटवा लूँगी. So then who will marry me? More than my family, I think they were more concerned about my marriage. My father never allowed those people comments to get in my head because उन्होंने बाहर का जो भी है उन्होंने handle किया है. He always told me one thing कि आप boxing पे focus करो, आप मेहनत करो और आप मेडल जीत के लाओगे तो यही लोग आएंगे आपके साथ फ़ोटो खिंचवाने के लिए. यही लोग बोलेंगे कि जमील भाई निखत कब आएंगे घर, हमें मिलना था, ऐसे एंड जब मैंने जूनियर वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप में गोल्ड मेडल जीता, एवरीवन वाज वेरी हैप्पी. तो तब लोगों ने सीरियसली लेना स्टार्ट किया कि ओके नाउ इट्स ए रियली बिग थिंग कि हमारे निज़ामबाद डिस्ट्रिक्ट से, एक छोटे से डिस्ट्रिक्ट से एक लड़की वर्ल्ड लेवल पे खेल रही है और हमारा कम्युनिटी का नाम रोशन कर रही है. बट स्टिल दे आर फ्यू पीपल जो बहुत ऑर्थोडॉक्स मेंटालिटी वाले होते हैं. स्टिल दे comment on my post जब भी मैं कुछ casual western कपड़े पहन के डाल देते, still they comment on my post कि हिजाब में रहो, पर्दे में रहो, है ना, तो but still I ignore those comments and I live my life in my own way.
And as Nikhat made her way up, she was faced with more tests, starting with a shoulder injury in 2017 that kept her out of boxing for almost a year and a half. And although her family and friends raised worries about how she would continue her career with such an injury, she told the Quint that she had bigger dreams. But what came next was an onerous challenge, breaking out of her idol Mary Kom's shadow, who's only one of the biggest and most legendary female boxers to ever come out of India. When Nikhat was trending on social media the last time in 2019, it was for controversial reasons. She had written to the then Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju to be allowed a fair trial against six-time world champion MC Mary Kom for a spot in the team for Olympic qualifiers. She was unhappy because the Boxing Federation of India, or the BFI, had earlier called off a trial bout in the flyweight category at the last minute to send Mary Kom to the 2019 World Championships in Russia. Nikhat was mocked online and she was trolled. And finally, there was a trial, but not for the World Championship. It was for Tokyo Olympics that Mary won with ease. But the entire endeavour hogged the headlines, with both sides flinging allegations of poor sportsmanship after the match. Nikhat Zareen recalled the whole incident to the Quint, describing how it had left her feeling.
2019 में वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप की ट्रायल होगी बोला था. We were supposed to enter in the ring, वार्म अप सब हो गया, देन आके हमें बोला जाता है कि फ्लाईवेट में ट्रायल ही नहीं होगी. तो दैट थिंग हैज़ रियली हिट मी. मुझे बहुत फील हुआ था कि मैं इतनी खराब बॉक्सर भी नहीं हूँ कि मैं ट्रायल ही डिजर्व नहीं करती हूँ. तो मैं एक फेयर ट्रायल के लिए फिर मैंने स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर किरण रिजिजू सर से भी मैंने लेटर लिखा था, रिक्वेस्ट किया था. बट लास्ट में वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप की तो ट्रायल नहीं हो पाई, बट लास्ट में ओलंपिक क्वालिफाइज की ट्रायल हुई. And there I lost to Mary Kom, and I accept that defeat, and since then I have moved on. I never thought people will take it in this way, I will be recognized as अरे Nikhat Zareen, she is the one who played with Mary Kom, she challenged Mary Kom. It was just a casual me asking for a fair trial, because I did not say directly send me to the Tokyo. No, I was just asking कि whoever wins, वो ही जाए. तो मेरे लिए मैं हारी हूँ करके मुझे कुछ दुख नहीं हुआ. बट आफ्टर द डिफीट पीपल स्टार्टेड कमिंग, ये वो है जिसने मैरी कॉम को चैलेंज किया था, बट क्या हुआ, लास्ट में हार गई है वो, ऐसे ना. आई हैव सेड इन मेनी इंटरव्यूज कि आई लुक अप टू हर, शी इज़ अ लेजेंड, शी इज़ माई आइडल. तो मैं क्यों चाहूंगी कि उनको डाउन करके मैं अपने आप को ऊपर लेकर जाऊं.
Cut to 2022 now, when this boxer is trending on Twitter once again, but this time for her big strides in the world of boxing. Besides this recent win, she also beat the Tokyo Olympic silver medalist Busenas Chakrolo earlier in February to bag the gold at the 73rd Stranger Memorial Boxing Tournament that was held in Bulgaria. And after winning the gold medal for India in the Women's World Boxing Championship, she thanked her parents for being on her side.
Thinking of my parents, because I know मैं जब भी जीत के कॉल करती थी, मेरी मम्मी नमाज पढ़ के आती थी, दुआ करती थी हमेशा कि मेरी बच्ची जीते. तो उनकी दुआएं आज ऊपर वाले ने कबूल की है. तो मैं बहुत खुश हूँ उनके लिए मेडल जीतकर. और मेरे पापा इतने, सभी को पता है कि मेरे पापा कितने सपोर्टिव है. तो दिस ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ माय पेरेंट्स सपोर्ट एंड माय फैमिली सपोर्ट. तो आई एम रियली हैप्पी. इसीलिए मुझे वो सब याद करके, मुझे याद है कि जब मेरा बुरा टाइम चल रहा था तो कोई नहीं था मेरे साथ एक्सपेक्ट माय पेरेंट्स एंड माय फैमिली. तो इसीलिए मुझे ये बस ऐसा मन कर रहा था कि मैं सबसे पहले मम्मी पापा को हेल्प करूं आफ्टर माय बाउट. तो इसीलिए मैं थोड़ा इमोशनल हो गई थी वो सब याद करके.
But now let's talk to our guest in this episode, Mr. Anand Datla, about the larger picture and about what this achievement means for Nikhat's career. I welcome you to this episode of the Big Story podcast, Mr. Datla.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So the dust has settled down on Nikhat's massive achievement at the World Championships. This is a huge moment in her career, isn't it?
Absolutely. As I had already written earlier, I think it's great validation. Validation is precious to every individual, but I think particularly in Nikhat's case, she's been through her fair share of struggles, which are all well documented. To the extent that at some point in 2019, she was questioning whether she should continue being a professional boxer. I think egged on by familial pressures, and to come back from that and take inspiration perhaps from Ronald Sims, dressing down once again, well documented in 2018, to come and win this humongous title and join this elite club of five. I think is a great moment in her career.
Right. And she was also quite dominant at the World Championships. And also, she's been in form this year. Do you think that this is where she truly turns a corner?
I think absolutely a big corner for her. I think in terms of how she can reset her career aspirations, particularly at a time when she is already beginning to think about moving into the 54 kilo category for Paris 2024. I think this is certainly a massive, massive moment. To come through an entire world championship, winning each bout 5-0 is obviously an enormous achievement.
Right. But I also want to talk about the larger picture of the sport now. What do you think Nikhat's gold will do for women's boxing in India?
In many ways, even though Mary has 6 golds and has been sort of, a legend many times over, I think what Nikhat's achievement will do is a phenomenal amount of aspiration and inspiration for girls from tier 2 towns and cities, particularly from social backgrounds that tend to obviate the aspirations of young women.
Right.
At the altar of family structures, patriarchy, and so on and so forth. I think one thing I really draw from Nikhat's life journey, right? I mean, there are so many layers to this story.
Right.
Initially, she had this great support from her father, very similar to what the Bhogat sisters enjoyed, irrespective of the social pressures. Coming out of a family of 3 siblings where 2 were doctors, studying constantly to be an athlete isn't easy either. So Nikhat, in that sense, has a parallel with PV Sindhu, right? And in Nizamabad, which is a very small town in Telangana, for this young girl to come through in a sport where there was barely any girls standing, which in turn turned to be sort of her call of destiny as well as a boon, because she started a career sparring with boys, very similar to what Saina did at the Pulela Gopichand Academy, right? So there are so many layers to Nikhat's story, and I'm sure that her gold will inspire a lot of young girls across the country, especially from marginalized and vulnerable sort of situations where the social pressures tend to, like I said already, cost the women their aspirations.
And would you call this a passing of the baton from Mary to Nikhat, both of whom may not have been at the friendliest of all colleagues?
I sort of think of it slightly differently, because Nikhat, I think, definitely had the opportunity to pick up the baton from Mary. Irrespective, I think Nikhat is running her own race. I think Nikhat is, for me, trailing her own path, and I think this is a significant moment in Indian sport.
And my final question to you, Mr. Datla, is what do you think is next for a confident and in-form Nikhat, especially given the Commonwealth Games, the Asian Games, and the Olympics coming up in the next few years?
Right. The postponement of the Asian Games is, not really great for any athlete, let alone Nikhat at the top of her game right now. But having said that, I believe Asian Games and Commonwealth will offer her a platform to experiment now with a great deal of freedom, because she's a world champion. I think she has far less to lose in these 2 events, and therefore should be able to go and impose herself in the 52 kilo category. Those will be the two big international events in that category for Nikhat before she transitions into the Olympics. And I say the Asian Games postponement was not great news, particularly from that reason, because when you move from one category to the next, when you adjust weight in boxing, you need to recalibrate your core strength, your strength and power of punches, and also work very consciously to retain the same levels of stamina or even increase them further, because with every marginal increment in the categories, the intensity of competition is relatively high. But I believe what this World Championship will do will give Nikhat the aspiration and belief, but also I think the juice that she needs to train harder to be very competitive in the 54 kilo category.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anand Datla, for taking the time out and being a part of this episode of The Big Story.
My pleasure, Shorbori.
And as I wrap up this episode, I want to tell you once again that this was the last episode of this season of The Big Story. But we will be back with season 2 after a very short break. So watch out for the release date on the Quint social media platforms. And I really hope you enjoyed listening to The Big Story. This is your host, Shorbori, signing off.